Hey everyone, it's Jefferson with the Detroit Lions podcast and Lions Wire. It is Friday, Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, day after a very frustrating and disappointing Lions loss, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. Leftovers from Thanksgiving. First off, hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving aside from the Lions. I am currently in the UP. I am about 5 miles west of Houghton, enjoying a blizzard, which has thankfully subsided. There is snow everywhere, and I'm in a cabin that has a tremendous amount of wood all around, and it's a little disconcerting. A lot of Packers fans up here, too. That's really disconcerting, especially after the way that the Lions played on Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of different ways you can go with this one. And I wanted to sum up the day in a couple of basic premises. Let's go with the short term. Let's go with the day. The game was almost even statistically. Like, they were within negligible difference in yards, first downs. Lions had a little bit more time of possession. Most of that came in the second half. The Packers dominated the first half in it. Penalties were about the same. Really, the Lions were pretty good on third down. Both teams were. But there were a couple of subtle differences. Packers were very successful on fourth down. Lions were not. And as much as we have loved that Dan Campbell has been aggressive and gone for it, now 0 for their last 7. And it's cost them directly in 2 close games. Losses at Philadelphia and at home to Green Bay, which are playoff teams. I don't know if the rest of the league has caught up to it, but this is a theory that, and I posited this in our Patreon Slack channel. Best money you can spend to get a significantly cleaner Lions chat than what you get on social media. And I am very grateful for all of you guys in the Patreon who have paid the $5 a month to get in and make it the most intelligent Lions chat on earth, because it's needed in these days. I wonder if, and this is just, I'm just wondering aloud here, thinking out loud. I wonder if the fact that the Lions are so intent on going for it on fourth down that they try to set up a shorter fourth down on, let's say, 3rd and 8. And they're going to try to gain 5 to make it 4th and 3 instead of trying to get the full 8. I don't know that. That's something that I want to break down further in film study. I don't know if I'll have time to do that before the end of the season. Quite frankly, maybe in the week after we play Dallas next week. We get a couple extra days there of rest and hopefully time to break things down a little bit more in depth. But I wonder if that's happening, because it feels like that's happening. Like, they're so, like, we know we're going for fourth down, so we don't necessarily go as hard on third down. You know, we're not as aggressive. We're not throwing to the sticks as much on third down. We're not calling plays that will realistically attain first downs. It's more about, like, let's get a little closer so fourth down's a little bit more manageable. Again, I don't know that that's the case, but it kind of feels like that, doesn't it? I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. Maybe I am. I don't know. Regardless, the fourth downs are becoming an issue. In this one, I like the play calls for the second one. First one, though, Packers were waiting on that. And that's something where Dan Campbell, the play caller, was a revolution in the game against Washington, after we'd become so frustrated with the staleness and predictability of what John Morton had done in the first few weeks. And now it's pretty clear that Dan Campbell, the head coach, and Dan Campbell, the offensive coordinator, don't exist very well together. Just look at the way that the team has focused on the little details and focused on the responsibilities. Like that's particular fourth down. Packers saw the formation. They know what the Lions have been doing throughout the game. They see Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. They see offensive linemen with their knuckles geared down, ready to rock and roll. They knew it was going to be a run. Everybody in the building knew it was going to. Fans knew it, and Ford Field knew it was going to be a run. Maybe call better play there. Now the second one. This one is. I got some interesting. We'll call it. Let's just leave it at interesting emails and responses on this. Fairly unprompted by me too. And I get that. We'll talk about that in a minute. I love the play call. Getting Jared Goff to roll out, move that point of attack for the defensive line, which is beating up the Lions' offensive line for most of the day. I love that. It's a great idea. Smart call. You got J-Mo streaking across the field. Nobody can stay with him. He's open. It's a good play call. Goff misses the throw, / J-Mo drops it. Both things can be true. I think they probably are. Goff took the blame after the game, although it sounds like J-Mo did as well. Obviously, I wasn't there. I'm in the UP. Watching it like y'all did. Watching it from home, or whatever constitutes home this weekend. Love the play call, but the execution wasn't there. And that is something that's a broader issue in the last few weeks since Dan Campbell has taken over as the offensive play caller, is that the overall execution on both offense and defense has not been as sharp. Is that related? Is it a cause of effect? I don't know, but it's real. And that's something that Dan has to look at. And it's something that the Lions as a organizational leadership need to look at. Is Dan being tasked too much by calling the offensive plays during the game that he's neglecting, even if unintentionally or unwittingly, other areas, and his assistant coaches in those spots just aren't capable of picking it up? Again, I don't know. It sure feels that way. I would like to see just, this is where it's hard, because Dan is good at what he does. And I think Dan did a pretty good job, honestly, in adjusting in this game, the play calling. Last week, one of the things that I was upset about after the debacle against the Giants where they almost lost, and also what happened the week prior against Philadelphia, they were calling plays and formations that were too predictable and too static. The Eagles' defensive line talked about it. Like, they knew what Goff was going to do if they rushed from point A or point B. They knew exactly where he was going to be. That wasn't the case yesterday with Green Bay. I thought they did a pretty good job of moving things around, about changing blocking up. Now, was it effective? No, it wasn't all the time. The blocking without Graham Glasgow in at center, with a clearly limited guys in Taylor Decker and Tate Ratledge and Penei Sewell, who were all questionable for the game. Yeah, they got beat a few times. But I liked the general schematic. Good Lord, Jared Goff had a 24-yard run yesterday. Second longest run of his career. By the way, the first longest run, the longest run, grammar cops, sorry, came against the Packers in his first game against the Packers back on September 17th, I think it was, 2021. It's like his second game as a Lion. He ran for a 26-yarder. That was his career long. This is the longest since then. It's more yards rushing he's had in a game than in any game in the last 3 years. So they did do some things different. They did mix it up. Good. Keep doing that. But the execution on the big plays, whether it's, Goff missing that throw to J-Mo dropping it, whatever. There were little things, too. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs actually missed a couple of holes that he could have bounced to in the run. That's clearly not Dan Campbell's fault. That's nothing to do with play calling. But it goes to the larger overall, overarching thought that the team just isn't playing as sharp or as focused. And I would like to see Dan Campbell focus that focus, for lack of a better expression. I want to see that attention to detail, doing the little things, come back, because yesterday Green Bay did those things and Detroit didn't, and that's why the Green Bay Packers won that game. You can complain about the refs, sure. Yeah, they sucked. You can talk about a lot of different things, but the bottom line for that game, the Packers executed and pulled off the little things, did the attention to detail, did the small, they made catches. They ran routes exactly properly. They didn't stop running on defense when the ball was going over their head. Just little things. Packers did those better yesterday. And that's really frustrating because that's not who they've been. And that's not who the Lions have been. The Lions have won, among many reasons, because their talent had that focus and discipline and drive. And they're not showing that lately. And that roughly coincides with when Dan Campbell took over as the offensive play caller. Again, I don't know if they're related, and I don't really know how you would fix that right now other than having John Morton take back more control of the offense. Maybe Scotty Montgomery, maybe Tyler Roll, maybe Tuiasosopo, maybe Coach Brew. Like there are options, but you're changing again in the middle of the season. That's not a good look. That's not. It's tough because it smacks of desperation, and instantly I can see you furiously typing, Jeff. Yes, it's desperate times. Yeah, I get that, but I don't know if they're cut out to do that. That's just not who this team is, and that's the frustrating part. Obviously, the injuries played a factor. Talked about the offensive line. They did miss Graham Glasgow. I do think that Tristan Colon played better as the game went on, which is to be expected. Obviously, the first play, steps on Goff's foot. Goff falls down, somehow gets the handoff off, thank God. Was very nearly catastrophic from the very beginning. They got out of that. But Goff starting cold, 0 for 3. They ran 8 plays in the first quarter, gained 10 yards. Can't come out slow again. They've come out slow too often, and the defense has come out slow. And again, is that, and I'm asking, I don't know this, I'm just asking the question, is that a game preparation issue? Is that something where Dan is stretched too thin because he's got to focus on being the head coach and the offensive coordinator, de facto or otherwise? Or is it other teams are more fired up to play the Lions than they are to play them? Could be. Certainly felt that way yesterday, did it not? With the Packers? I don't know. I think these are valid, fair questions. And I hope that the Lions are asking themselves these things because they can't continue to do what they're doing and have realistic playoff aspirations. And this is where we sort of switch from the micro yesterday to the more macro. Is the season over? 7-5. Probably not realistically going to catch the Packers, who are 8-3-1. That tie's so weird. But yes, the Lions still have playoff hope, and it's certainly plausible. And I'll lay out the most likely scenario for it to happen. The Bears lose to the Packers twice. That means I know this is a difficult ask. I know it's hard. It's hard for me. You got to root for the Packers to sweep the Bears. That is the Lions. It's not their only path for getting into the playoffs, but it's sure as hell the best one. Because if that happens and the Lions beat the Bears at the end of the season, the Lions can be ahead of the Bears. Even if they're tied with the same record, they would be ahead of the Bears. If those 3 losses happen for Chicago, guess what? Lions can still lose one more game and get into the playoffs, but it's got to happen that way. If the Bears beat the Packers twice, that means you're going to need a lot, even once. You're going to need a lot of help from, well, it starts with beating Dallas next week. That's Look, the Cowboys are playing good football. I did not watch that game yesterday. That's when my family eats. We eat after the Lions game. Shout out to my wife's corn casserole. That was awesome. Loved it. Ready for more? Leftovers are so good. You got to beat Dallas, but then you can still drop one more game. But again, that's what has to happen. We need the Packers. We need to be struck down. Swear to God, a truck just drove by with a Packers flag on it. That's perfect symbolism. That is crazy to me. But yeah, it's weird that the UP, and I'm in Houghton here with Michigan Tech. My son goes here. It's much more Packer country than Lions country, and it's frustrating. My son lives with two Packers fans from Wisconsin. His basketball teammates, most of their teams from Wisconsin. So it's not a great time for us, for Team Risdon, to be up here, but we're making do. Look, it's a football game. We lost. All hope is not gone, but it's certainly colder, snowier. Not a good time. Now, if let's say the Bears split with the Packers, Bears still have to lose one other game. That's fine. One of the issues is that one of the teams that they play is another team that the Lions are chasing. We also need somebody in the NFC West to tank. I don't care if it's San Francisco or Seattle. It can be either one. They're both ahead of us right now. We need one of them to fall off. Based on Sam Darnold last year, my money would maybe go towards the Seahawks being the team that falls, but the 49ers, you want to talk about injury issues, good Lord. Everybody's got them. The Packers have them. Packers overcame those yesterday. You saw that, man. Play without Tucker Kraft. That guy's a great tight end. Equal to Sam Laporta. Did the Packers miss him as much as the Lions miss Sam Laporta? Maybe. Probably not. I don't think so. They've shuffled their offensive line. Their center's out for the year. They're making do. And that leads to the next point on the more macro level. The crush the can ain't working. And it's not gonna work. And that is a long-term issue that they really can't do much about it right now, because that's who their personnel is. Maybe they could use Derek Barnes as more of a traditional Sam, where he actually rushes the passer and brings a little bit of speed to the equation, but they haven't really seemed to show any inclination of doing that. And they did do that this summer. They did it especially in the joint practice against the Texans, and it worked very well. I would like to see them try that more, because the lack of speed on the outside, especially with Aleem. Look, Aleem McNeil's a fantastic football player. He needs to be between the tackles. I don't want him as a 7-tech. It's not where he wins. I want him annihilating the guard in front of him, splitting that A-gap, getting in there, swimming over a shoulder on the inside, and getting pressure up the gut. It's where he's good. It's where Tyleik Williams was pretty good, too. I thought Tyleik played pretty well yesterday. Has had a couple of decent games in a row. But, man, they're not getting home at all with this crush the can idea. Hutch, got to play better. You can't take an offer in not touching the quarterback in a game. You just can't. He's paid too much. He is relied upon too much as well. And those are related problems. They don't have anything on the other side. Marcus Davenport came back. I'm aware that he played. Didn't do anything memorable. He did actually hold the point of attack on a run once. Nice. Okay, that's great. Go get the quarterback. Akadim Muhammad. Great. First 6 weeks or so since the bye. Have you seen him play? Because he's been out there a lot. But have you seen him? Pass rush, massive disappointment. And Hutch bears some responsibility for that. I think they play him too much. He should not be out there playing 90% of the snaps as he's doing. There's always the argument, the weighing there, like, well, we lose so much when we take him off the field that we can't afford to take him off the field, but also you're playing him so much that he's not as effective when he's on the field. They got to find that balance. That's on Kelvin Shepard. That's, again, on Dan Campbell. That's part of what a head coach does. Reflect back on it. What I said earlier. Is Dan able to manage these things while he's also running the offense? Sorry, Dan. I think you're biting off a little more than you can chew there. That's not something that's an easy fix during the season, though. As far as more other macro stuff, we lost Amon-Ra St. Brown for probably a week, 2, low ankle sprain, got rolled up on by Tristan Colon. Obviously not Colon's fault. Obviously not Saint's fault. He's blocking. It's a tough one. And I'll go back to a conversation I had in the media scrum at training camp in 2024 when Saint sat out a couple of days. He had some minor injury. But anyways, he wasn't on the field, and the Lions' first team offense could do nothing against the second team defense. Remember, this is Aaron Glenn's last defense, not exactly the 27 Yankees. And they could do nothing against them without Saint on the field. I was actually pretty impressed at how they adapted yesterday. I thought J-Mo stepped up nicely. I thought Isaac Tesla getting more involved was a good thing. Loved his touchdown catch. Those routes are there. They're absolutely there. Thought Tom Kennedy came in. That seam hit, that's Tom Kennedy replacing Sam Laporta. That's a wrinkle that the Packers hadn't seen. Again, being more unpredictable. It works. Mine's been too stale, too predictable. Good teams, well-coached teams, disciplined teams have seen the film enough that they're figuring it out. And it requires a Herculean level of execution from the Lions' best players. Looking at the yesterday, again, Goff and J-Mo don't hook up on that last pass. Whichever one you want to cast blame at, cast it at both. It didn't work. Gibbs did not have a great game. Did he have a lot of room to run? No. But the Packers did a pretty good job of focusing their defense on stopping him. But there were a couple of runs where it looked like maybe he had a crease to one side or the other. Maybe he runs a little bit, I don't know. It's very nitpicky. But it wasn't his best game. It's long and short of it. Saints out. Laporta's out. Defensively, Goff missed a couple of throws yesterday. A couple times he got hit where he had no chance either. Taylor Decker gave up that sack to Parsons. Like, there's nothing Goff can do on that other than pray that he doesn't get his shoulders separated. Clean win. Your left tackle's got to play better. Panay had one of those last week against the Giants. He didn't touch him. Didn't touch his man. Like, your better players have to play better. Again, focus, attention to detail, execution. The Packers did those things and the Lions did not. The Eagles, by and large, especially on defense, did those things. The Lions, certainly on offense in that game, did not. Thought the Giants, quite frankly, out-executed. Now, it requires some gimmickry. Lions basically tried the same play that the Giants scored their first touchdown on, the throwback pass. Goff dropped the ball. Didn't look it in. Attention to detail. Again, I'm not going to harp on Goff for that. He's not supposed to catch the ball. That's not something that we see from them, although they did run that play against the Dolphins in the joint practices, and it worked very well. And it was there. Didn't execute. Got to execute better if you want to win. If you want this team with this talent level, there's too much there to not play sharp. to not have that focus. And that's disappointing. Now, defensively, talk about the pass rush. Ugh. A lot of plays in coverage where the Lions are right there. Packers just a little bit sharper. Touchdown pass, the deep one to Wicks. Why has Brian Branch stopped running? Why is Harper late getting there? Why is Harper not trying to dislodge that ball? Again, it's easy to nitpick from however many miles away we are from the team. These are things that you focus on in practice. This is what they practice, y'all. And y'all who played football know this. Like, you focus on those situations. So when it happens in a game, you're ready. And for whatever reason, the practice field didn't translate to the game, or the Packers just did it better. I don't know if either of those are good answers, but that's what happened. That's where we are. That's why we're a 7-5 football team right now, in need of some help from other teams to get back to where we are. Look, Terrion played pretty well yesterday. Amik did not. Amik had played very, very well early. Last couple of games, he's been a liability. I haven't looked at the PFF scores yet. I'm going to guess that his was in the bottom 5 for defense. Branches probably isn't down there because he did wind up making quite a few plays. I know he had 2 PDs, although one of them was more of a drop, in my opinion. He's got to do more. Hutch, you got to do more. You've got to touch the quarterback. He created some pressure. He did clearly force 2 incompletions by Love with pressure, which is nice. Need more than that. When you're lining up and Micah Parsons is on the other team, and Parsons has the sort of game that he does, and Hutch has the sort of game that he does, you can't ignore that. Parsons earned his money yesterday. Hutch didn't. Is that all on Hutch? No. But he's got to do more. Good players have to be your best players, and they've got to be at their best for this team to win. They have not been for the last 3 weeks. I know they won against the Giants. I think we can all agree that was Jameis Winston giveth and taketh away for the Giants. That's who he is. Love Jameis, but that's who he is at this point. That's why he's a journeyman now. That's why he doesn't start anymore. We all knew. Well, I knew. A lot of people knew. Again, we'll go back to the Detroit Lions podcast Patreon. Like, a lot of us knew that was going to happen. Like, we never lost hope. And yesterday, I didn't lose hope either because I thought that the Lions had the talent. And again, that 4th down play, it's there. Didn't make it. The 4th down play that the Packers hit. That's great coverage, man. Dude loses his shoe. Makes a contested catch. Nice throw by Love. They're making those plays. The Lions aren't. Lions have to start making those plays. Please. Be remiss if I didn't talk about Frank Ragnow coming back. Yes. Very happy that he's coming back. I have no clue what sort of football shape he's going to be in, but we will see. I'm sure he's been getting there, working on his own, trying to be there. I do worry a little bit that we're all going to think, oh my God, all of our problems are solved because Frank Ragnow's back at center and he hasn't played football against another human in almost a year. To expect him to be perfect right away, and I do sense that that's what our collective fan base is at, that's unfair to Frank. It's unfair to the team. And I hope that the team doesn't do that. I know that they're not going to do that, but to expect that he's going to magically solve all the problems up front right away, don't do that to Frank. Just don't. But he needs to be better than what they have been, and I think he will be right away. And that certainly helps out I'm very much looking forward to the 10-day break after the Cowboys game, which is, yes, it is a must win. Because the Cowboys, while they also have a tie on their record and therefore will not wind up in a tiebreaker situation with the Lions, they're playing really good football right now, and they are scary because they know their defense isn't very good, and they just try to keep scoring. That's what the Giants did. Kind of what the Packers did in the first week, too, honestly. They didn't know what they had in their defense. Parsons was new toy. Let's just go out and outscore these Lions. See if this Lions offense with this line without St. Brown can beat us. If I'm the Cowboys, then you better believe that's what I'm trying to do. And they've done a pretty good job of that lately. And by the way, their defense is looking better. They are getting better play. Scary opponent. Tough game. Hope we can win it. We can. Without saying it's going to be difficult. But it can be done. Again, there's still a lot of talent on this team. They got to execute. They got to get it done. Otherwise, we're looking at a long off season where draft talk starts around Christmas. Did the video about offensive tackle prospects to know the other day. Thank you for all the feedback on that. I appreciate it. Glad you all watched it and enjoyed it. Most of you seem to enjoy it anyways. We're going to do more of those. I have been shifting in draft mode. I've been wearing my Draft Wire managing editor hat for quite a bit now. I've been watching a lot of prospects in my spare time because I don't really want to watch the Lions because they're depressing. So I've been watching draft prospects more to keep from throwing myself into the frozen river that's behind my place here. It's tempting. Oh, goodness. I'll just say this, and this is something that I put out on social media too. I don't think they need to draft interior offensive line this year. You've got two of your three starters in Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge. Whether Ratledge is center or guard remains to be seen. I personally think, and this is just my opinion, that he will be our starting center in 2026 and beyond. I don't know that. I don't know that that's the best fit, but I do think that's what's going to happen. This team is screaming out for a veteran presence on the inside that can play. Graham Glasgow is a great veteran presence. I'm not sure he can play anymore, although he did play pretty damn well in the second half of that Giants game, and he was missed yesterday. So, could it be Ragnow? Sure, that'd be awesome. I think it's way too early to even begin to speculate if he will stick around for another year. But let's see him get through a game. Let's see him get through a couple of weeks of practice and, going up against good NFL players on other teams. Got the Rams coming up. Got the Cowboys. Like, those are aggressive defenses. They're going to be a challenge. But I hope that the focus, if they're drafting offensive line, is at tackle, and if that tackle can play guard, that could be Miles Frazier. We will see. He was activated this week, thank God. I'm a very big Miles Frazier fan. We've made that very clear on this show. I like him better as a tackle. Am I opposed to him being the right guard of the future? Hell no. Let's go. Let's do it. I think they've got enough youth there on the inside. They need something more than Giovanni Manu waiting in the wings at tackle. And again, we don't know what Manu is, what he isn't. After 2 years, he's been injured. He's not been practicing for months. Won't be practicing, it sounds like, until like spring. I don't know. They've been very quiet on that one. We'll see. But you got to get something in there. Whether Taylor Decker plays another year or not, you've got to get a better number 3 tackle than what Dan Skipper offers and what Manu could be. And again, that could be Miles Frazier. If that's the case, you absolutely need to go out and get a veteran guard center this offseason. I will point you to the Cleveland Browns, who absolutely cannot pay both Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, and perhaps not either of them. Either one of those guys, instant starter, instant best interior offensive lineman in Detroit. That's my wish. It's Black Friday. Time of wishes. Making your Christmas list. That's what I want for April, Brad. Please. I've been good, mostly. All right. Talk long enough. I'm going to go enjoy some leftovers, get reacquainted with my family. Sincerely hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Don't let the Lions ruin it. Be with your friends, be with your family, be with wherever you need to be. Make sure it's a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. It's a tough, stressful time, aside from the Lions being a stress on a lot of us. It's part of being a passionate fan, man, is that the losses are hard. I get that. Don't make them too hard, please. If you need help, get help. If you need to unplug for a little bit, please do it. I did it for a little bit. It does wonders for you. It really does. Just shut it off. Find an escape, preferably a legal one. And we'll talk at you again soon.